go. Springs in place. Now we take our shock absorber. Put our shock absorber in on the top. Wow, this shock's pretty stiff. This. Push our shock absorber down. And we go. Hopefully we'll make it in time. Oh, there we go. With our shock absorber in place, now what we got to do is get the bolts on the top of it and the bolts on the bottom. Now if you remember right, this capture nut was broken. So I'm going to go get 2 new nuts and bolts and just put in new ones. And then we'll put the top ones in. So I'll be right back. Now, when you're doing something like this, you don't want to just get any kind of bolt. If you look at it, this bolt has 3 little lines on it. That means that it's a grade 5 bolt. If you get a bolt with nothing on it, it's like no grade or a grade 3, and you don't want to use it for something like this. If it has 5 little lines on it, it's still a grade 5. If it has more than that, it's a grade 8 or a 12. That just tells you the quality of the metal that's being used. A grade 5 bolt has a certain breaking strength, and the higher the grade, the higher the breaking strength is on that bolt, which means if you somehow attach this and you went to pull it apart at whatever it's designated at, and I don't know off the top of my head, but there's an actual number that they can say, yeah, a grade 5 bolt will break at 10,000 psi. That means the pressure it took to stretch that bolt and pop it. So for something like this, I would always recommend using at least a grade 5 bolt. All right, now, all that's left is attaching the top nuts. Now, it's important to put this ring back on, and the reason why you want to do that is because this is just sheet metal, and you don't want to tear it up or anything, so you just drop this on there. Probably goes on one way. There it goes. It goes on one way. Put your nuts on. Lock it all down. You got to be careful not to over tighten this stuff, guys, because if you do, you're going to have more problems in the long run. So don't go too crazy with it. Oh, and if you notice, I got my ratchet because I needed it for those other bolts. All right, we'll put the cap on. Rubber cap for looks. If the camera would get out of my way, I'll take the carpet. Put the carpet back in place. Oh, yeah. Thing of beauty. The back is done. Threads are a little messed up. It's getting easier as it goes on, but sometimes you got to be careful. Someone might have ran them on with an impact and messed them up. See, this one's not going on all the way. I'll get to it later when I take it to the alignment shop. I'll have the guy either replace the stud or we'll check it out, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Because if you're running on too far and you really mess it up, you got to replace that thread, that stud, I should say, not thread, and you could really hurt it bad. Or you could just hit it with a tap and die setup and re-clean the thread. So I'm going to leave it alone for right now. But it was that easy to do this STS. It's the easiest one by far that I've come across. It's cake, a spring, a shock, disconnect the wire, disconnect the airline. You just tuck this airline up out of the way and it's gone. You don't have to worry about it anymore. There's no trash that's going to get in it. The toughest thing that you're going to have to do is turn off the compressor. And you can call the tech guys for that. They'll tell you what you need to do because it is in the instructions if you want to use it. But, you know, tech guys are there. Use them. I'm going to move on to the front now, and that is equally as easy. All right. We're going to start jacking it up. I've got the lugs loosened with it on the ground. You don't want to go crazy. break them loose, because you don't want to take them off with the weight of the car in there, because then you're going to have bigger problems. Car falls, lugs flying all over the place, you're scared, you're checking your drawers, it's not a pretty sight. So I've got the lug nuts loosened, I've got the jack underneath the front end of the car. I'm going to jack it up, put the jack stands under in a nice safe place. There's a cross member, because this is a front wheel drive car. There's an actual frame that bolts to the bottom of the car. There's a brace that goes from side to side right about here, and there's another one back here. So I'm going to put the jack stands on one of those. That gives me room to work on everything. Then I'm going to take the top bolts out, take the bottom bolts out on the strut, put this baby in. Let's get it up in the air.